in India, when we talk about nuclear power, the first question everybody talks to you about is safety. Now, again, there's a lot of merit to what they say and there's a lot of nonsense to what they say also. I need to explain safety. First thing is, nuclear power is less deaths than any other form of power. People will be very clear. Chernobyl, 31 dead. This is not me. This is, we have UN and all these IAEA and all these people have done these tests, studies, whatever. Of course, people got sick. There's radiation poisoning, cancer, all these things happen. And that number will probably be over 4,000. Nobody talks about the evacuation of 250,000 people from, Pripyat, for example, the Soviet state. They didn't do it the first 2 days, but when they realized what was going on, they got them out quickly. So it is not that people are that careless with nuclear technology. They are fully aware that what the damages can be. To give you a comparison, I have some statistics here. Chernobyl killed actual deaths on the spot, 31. In 1992, a gas explosion in Guadalajara killed 200.
Where was that?
Guadalajara, Mexico. In Machu, a hydro dam burst and 2,500 people were killed. All this in 1979 this was. And 84 people died when an oil rig off the coast of Newfoundland sank in 1982. And Shanxi, coal mining disaster in 2003 killed 53 people. Now compare this with the figure of Chernobyl, the biggest of all nuclear disasters. And these are not necessarily the biggest in their own respective fields, but the biggest nuclear disaster killed 31 people.
That's on that, at that time.
Right.
What about
within
people continue to die?
31 is basically like at that time and very immediate period, right. But the injuries have been, the people who have been, who are living with sickness, they are not died, they are living with sickness, are about 4,000 is what the statistics.
Sickness would
radiation.
Radiation.
Yeah. Now see, these figures are highly disputed. I have seen figures of 1 million also. Okay, but the thing is, that is a Greenpeace figure. Whereas I have seen the UN and the IAEA, the report said 4,000, and I have seen reports from other agencies who have quoted 9,000, 10,000, 12,000. But again, 9, 10, 12,000 is not as much more than it's nowhere near 1 million. For example.
I think it's very similar to the phobia of dying in an air crash compared to a bus or a car.
Air crash kills more people than air crash.
Yeah. Or even crossing a street, people die. More people die than air crash.
What level of radiation is safe for any living thing? I mean, there must be some level of.
But see, that level depends also in the sense that there's a lot of background radiation you have to be aware of, right? So the idea that you don't live in radiation unless you're near a nuclear plant is absolutely not true.
Because I read an interview, I think, Dr. Morris Lee, I don't know. He's a scientist who worked for Kalpakkam for nearly 30 years, he and his wife. They said it's absolutely safe. We've been living close to Kalpakkam for 30 years.
The fact is that many people have pointed this out, that the radiation emitted from a properly functioning nuclear plant is less than the radiation emitted from a coal plant. So in that sense, yes, if something goes wrong, you might have a problem, but that is true anyway. If something goes wrong in your marks, your parents will create a problem for you. So that doesn't negate. Yeah.
You said that the figures come from IEA, UN, and whatever on one side, on the other it's Greenpeace. Is it possible for a non-affiliated person like me or you or whoever to go there and
after so many years it will be much harder. After this many years it might be harder. But in principle, you can have a lot of these statistics is about how you categorize things and all this.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by sickness, for example?
Right, so everything, whatever they cover.
So what will happen is, let us say I am very anti-nuclear and I will say that this sickness is caused by radioactivity XYZ. And you will say no, this sickness is seen also among XYZ people living in Japan very far from Chernobyl. So this is clearly not that issue. So these debates get very murky. The reason, see, if you take more mainstream...
Okay, that's the next level. First level is to get the data. Can you get it?
Yeah, data is possible. You can do the research.
Data,
yes, that is possible. Chernobyl is a big cottage industry of research on its own. I think there's much you can find. That is not an issue. Russian, you multiply the sources by a factor of 6 at least. Russian movies on this, a lot of stuff, good stuff. So, anyway, modern era, finally, we got there. So, another thing, between 89 and between 1960 and 1986, and this is the information I said is on the centerright.in website in some of the articles I've mentioned. Hydro, there were 8 accidents and about 4,000 dead between 69 and 86. Coal, there were 62 accidents but 3,600 dead. Oil, 63 accidents, 2,500 dead. Gas, 24 accidents. And when I say accidents, I mean serious accidents, not any small accidents, like major accidents. And 1,500 dead. Nuclear power plants is 1 accident and 31 people. So
that was over 20 years?
That was between 1969 and 1986.
70 years.
Then 1,000 mile doesn't come in this.
1,000 mile nobody died. 1,000 mile was a scare. It could have been very bad had anything gone wrong.
The popular narrative, it keeps coming as a.
It
For
was
media, it's
I got to listen that radiation came from Russia to even India.
They have been saying even to Switzerland.
See, this is like any science teacher will tell you radiation is this thing about distance and shelter and all these things. What it has to go to reduce significantly. Radiation existing is one thing. What kind of radiation is another thing. Again, what kind is very. There are a lot. See, in all those nuclear tests that happen in the air have also put radiation in. But nobody has 3 years right now. That is not the mainstream human race. Yes, there are risks. The idea with nuclear power, anything in the world, is not about risk elimination, it's about risk management. Driving a car, crossing the street in India is dangerous. About 150,000 Indians die every year traffic accidents. So, are you going to ban traffic? Are you going to say, forget everybody walk? I mean, how many people, some 2,500 people in US alone choke to death every year. So, you're going to ban eating? It absolutely makes no sense. The argument with nuclear is that if there's a small disaster, the impact will be huge. And that is the one thing. And my point is that, yes, if something goes wrong, but that small disaster for the huge impact is actually a very serious disaster. They have a scale, international nuclear and radiological event scale they have from 1 to 7. And one is stuff like if you forget to sign out, it's an incident in a nuclear plant. They'll sign it up and they'll mark it as an accident. And that is how seriously they take this stuff. Because let's face it, these guys don't want to die any more than you or me. Okay. So they're there, they're plant managers, they're running this show, their families are there also. So this idea of they can be careless, not so simple.
So how many were the total deaths in those 17 years? How many total? Oil, everything added up approximately?
4,000 plus 3,600 plus 2,500 plus 1,500 plus 31.
More than 12,000.
7, 8, 9, 10, yeah, close to 12.
And about 1,000 accidents together? Number of incidents?
No. Accidents were maybe about 150. So 150, 100.
Okay.
And you want to take into account the environmental damage if you got oil.
Yes, and with nuclear too, obviously with coal too. But
Every statistics.
But environment is exactly what I was actually getting at. Now, nuclear release of radioactivity is less than 0.05% of the total. This is of the total radiation. Okay. This is the United Nations Scientific Committee on Effects of Atomic Radiation. This is their statistic. Yes, I might have done engineering, but this is a little beyond me to go and measure all these things, so I'm going to take them at their word. So, anyway, 1,000 megawatt coal plant, as I was saying earlier, will release more radioactivity than a similar nuclear power plant. Another issue with the environment when it comes to nuclear is waste. Okay, so fine.
Very big problem.
It is a very big problem. There are 2 or 3 issues with this. One is what kind of waste? In the sense, the US is very big on this once through cycle. You use it once and that's it, you're done. You generate the most waste that way, and you generate the most dangerous waste that way, which is half-life is like 24,000 years. Not a very happy prospect.
That is due.
Pardon me?
Depleted uranium.
Yeah, that is because most of American reactors are light water.
I believe they're pumping it all over Afghanistan, Iraq.
No. See, depleted uranium, those are shells, that is different. But
The shells,
right,
yeah.
but basically, once you that is not a happy fuel. The Indian idea of a thrice-through cycle, you're using the same fuel 3 times, getting most energy out of it that way. And especially the thorium cycle, the nuclear waste, is about 150 years. 24,000 was 150 years. This is a very big reason why thorium has become more and more interesting recently. is because they realize that even these other dangerous products, the other actinides and all these things, like neptunium and all are produced. The reactor, a thorium reactor can be configured to burn that also. It's not just uranium and all these things. The point is you need to get the chain reaction going, whatever it is. You need neutrons flying around, you need fission, all these things. And so the waste is far less.
So we have the technology to actually maximize our benefit out of thorium. That's been a contentious issue.
We are on the cusp of it, but to make it mainstream, I think all the reports that are out on this say that it will take at least till 2050, because you need a big base of, you need a huge plutonium stock for the, for the second round, second stage, third stage. Only then you will have, enough to all these things.
So what is the effect on Kudankulam right now? They are saying we are using both uranium and thorium.
There are multiple plants. In Kudankulam, they can't wait. The light water reactor, I don't think they're using thorium. I don't think they're using thorium. Because the thorium plant, they are going to start in 2016. They're going to start constructing, not online, constructing in 2016.
So right now,
and there's a plant which is the fast breeder, prototype fast breeder reactor in Kalpakam, not Kudankulam, which is starting to come online in early 2013 as the schedule. Now let us see.
Already started the
Maybe
fuel.
just wanted to understand why India needs
not
plutonium.
Kalpakam, different.
Kalpakam is operational for like what, 40 years?
No, I'm talking about the prototype fast breeder reactor.
Oh.
See, one side can have multiple reactors. No, so you have to be very clear as to what we are.
Why India needs plutonium? Because as per my understanding, U-238 when it goes to nuclear, it becomes a P-239, right? So means we automatically get plutonium.
Right.
So means why do we need to import more plutonium for that?
We're not importing plutonium. We're
No
importing
plutonium, right?
Nobody will sell you plutonium. Not without the strictest safeguards, and I don't
It's a
know.
water.
So
Kudankulam is U-233.
The plant that just gone online. That is
Heavy water.
that is no light water. This is a Russian VVR design, which
235.
is the
233 irradiated thorium.
Right. It's irradiated. Then they reconfigured that then, because the original design for the VVR is actually enriched uranium with light water. It's a light water reactor in essence.
Just confirm, 233 is thorium or uranium?
No,
Irradiated thorium.
with thorium. It's a mixed oxide.
Normally it's 235.
Uranium is 233, 35 and 38.
Yeah.
Jaideep, when you said 150 years of half-life, right? So the product of that reaction will be completely safe after 150 years.
Yeah.
that's half-life damage. Only
half-life.
half is gone.
Okay,
Half
half-life.
is remaining. It's not completely
Means
safe.
1 by 2.
No, half is remaining, but I mean, the product of that reaction will be, is no longer radioactive.
It will be.
It will still be.
I mean, half-life is half-life. No, half of the product will disappear.
Half is still radiated.
They just take it to the ocean and dump it, man. That's all they do.
No, I think.
They won't tell you anything.
So
No, I think the French are trying to recycle, trying to make a permanent nuclear availability and underground, dumping somewhere in between the, I don't know what that thing is, alleged granite or something.
we
You cannot do it.
I think we should
First
move on.
level.
We should move on.
Yeah.
So, is it okay to make an observation that the US nuclear industry, as you said, they mostly have this one-stop thing with a half-life of 24K years,
Right.
which is very terrible. Given the fact that the US has all the highest technology under its command, the nuclear industry is doing this is a singular disservice to industry and to mankind, the US and to everyone else.
You can see that way. I think there's in the sense that the nuclear industry would actually agree with the US nuclear industry would agree with it,
But why they're still doing it?
because it's a political decision. Jimmy Carter,
The government stopped them from.
the nuclear industry wanted they favored there's a big debate after India's nuclear
But
test.
why was it for getting DU out of that?
No, see, the issue was that it goes to the fuel cycle argument, right? The point is, if your fuel cycle is open, that means you can extract the fuel and make weapons and all these things. So you want to close that loop. Basically, the Americans said, okay, I give you the fuel, you put it to that, and you come back and data. Or anybody would say, why would we do this? I mean, what's in it for us? Because the Americans said, what? I'll give you the fuel, you use it in your reactor, but you hold on to the waste. Hang on one second. but you can't reprocess or anything like that. Okay, just hold on. So they said, wait a second. So no, you sell it to me, you sell it to me. We're done with this. Then I'll reprocess whatever. Now that you can't. So this is what the politicians were unhappy with. The nuclear industry was pretty fine with it because they said making nuclear weapons is a little more complicated than a fuel cycle. Yes, it's a very important point, but the first thing is there are other things you can do to prevent proliferation of nuclear weapons. The French, the British, the Russians are doing it. We should not discourage fast breeder programs. The fast breeder research at that point was not as promising. It was not bad. It certainly showed some promise, but it was not as miraculous as people expected it to be or hoped it would be. And that was the excuse. And ultimately, the point was the heavy water fuel cycle created plutonium. That was a very important issue. When the nuclear suppliers group was set up, the fuel cycle discussions were there. This is in 78, 79. Jimmy Carter was singularly responsible, as most people tell you, for the disaster of the US nuclear industry. Now, that is, maybe a
So it was an incorrect decision, or he had some political motivation which is...
No, I think he genuinely believed. He's one of the believers, very spiritual.
In keeping it for 24,000 years.
He thought nuclear power was not exactly the best idea, but he thought that the danger of proliferation was so much that the one through was enough.
He was a pacifist.
So that will reduce the chance of proliferation.
Yeah, he said, yes, he said that by doing that it would reduce it. But given that other countries have nonetheless gone and tested, I think Jimmy Carter was perhaps not very accurate with his forecasts. Jimmy Carter is a very controversial figure.
Proliferated as a matter of policy. So
that's a different issue. Jimmy Carter is a very controversial figure. This nuclear, the US industry bring up. Jimmy Carter is an extremely controversial figure on this. So that's a whole debate on its own. Yeah. Anyway. So what was I saying? Yes, in terms of, the other thing is renewable energies and all these sort of things. The problem with this is that you talk about renewable energies and effects they have on the environment only after they have been installed. Nobody talks about what it takes to manufacture, say, solar cells, for example. This coal, for example, which is not renewable but a fossil fuel. Nobody talks about all the fumes that releases. When you have wind, the land that is going to be taken up by the wind farm. Nobody talks about the land resources that we have lost because of that. The wind patterns can change, birds' migratory patterns can change. It is noisy. It is not exactly nice to look at. Let's forget looks for now. But there are all these other factors in renewable energy. Solar cells. It's nice for your house. You put a panel and your electricity bill goes down by maybe 20%, 30%, whatever. Try that in summer when you have all those ACs running. And try that in an industry when you have these big machines running. I think in India has done, I don't know if India, but Karnataka has a very good policy of saying all new buildings must have solar panels. I think they've said no. It's a very good policy. It will definitely help us. But if you think that is a solution, that's nonsense. That's absolutely not possible. The 438 nuclear plants, more or less, that are around right now, save 600 million tons of carbon every year going into the atmosphere. If you are serious about carbon footprints, if you are serious about global warming, I cannot understand how, as an environmentalist, you would not support nuclear power. 438 nuclear power plants, more or less, in the world. This I think, a couple of years old article. So, I wrote this a couple of years ago, so the data is from 2 years back. So, in terms of coal per kilowatt hour, if coal gives 1,000 grams, as the yardstick will say, solar gives 60 to 150, wind 3 to 22, between 3 and 22, and nuclear gives 6. So, and that is just the coal in the environment. And again, I agree waste is a problem, but I think that the solution for that is using thorium. There is movement on thorium. Thorium has excited interest, research interest again. It shut down in the early 80s, 80, 83 kind of thing in the US, for example. But that interest is being rekindled. China is there. India is ahead of everybody right now, but I'm not sure how long it will last. India.
Once the 1, 2, 3 bill is activated and implemented, it will go.
I think it's complicated.
I
I think you should continue. That's very interesting. Very interesting. Keep
So
going.
then comes regulation. Now this is the point where I think the anti-nuclear people are absolutely right in it.
Before you go into regulation, is it also better compared to other sources? You compare to solar, yes, we agree because solar has. What about wind?
Wind also, I covered it.
What about ocean? What about the waves?
The tidal energy is something that I don't know much about because there are very few tidal energy plants. Gujarat, they're building one, I think, if I'm right. And we'll know more when it's complete. It should be complete very soon, 2030 or something.
Biofuel.
Biofuel, but here's the issue. Can you power a whole country with biofuel?
I know.
See, the ethanol thing in the US is a total disaster, no matter what the agriculturists tell you. So, in terms of bio waste and all these things, the issue is not providing fuel for yourself. The issue is providing fuel for yourself, let us say at peak use at least, and then multiply that to industries, big machines that lift cars, cranes, all these things. How do you power all that? Trains. I mean, this is not something you do with biofuel.
No, I'm not saying trains for biofuel, but buses can be run with biofuel. They're already doing it in
See,
here.
the issue is that I'm not saying that renewable energies should not be there. I think renewable energy is a very good thing. I'm a big fan of that. The difference is, at the national policy level, when you're talking about a country, we need real energy. And I'm talking about we start talking in at least we should talk in tens of gigawatts, also, at least.
So wind is not comparable to solar. If you compare wind, solar, and all on one side and nuclear on one side, you still think that nuclear is probably the best bet?
For a national policy, absolutely. I think
even in terms of infrastructure.
Which is why I see what I said was that the Karnataka idea of insisting on solar panels on rooftops of the new building, I think it's wonderful. I think anything we can do to reduce coal, oil, even nuclear for that matter, is wonderful. But ultimately, you will need the big power plants, and those big power plants, I think, in my opinion, the best would be nuclear. It's only about the big consumers.
Not even the wind. India is wind swept.
But there are multiple issues with wind. One is that these plants have, in Germany, for example, there are complaints about it. Again, the aesthetics apart, the complaints have been that there are a lot of people who question the bird migratory patterns. So there are environmental effects that way.
Major.
Noise, bird migratory.
Offshore wind is taking off big wind.
Now they're trying to put,
inconsistent.
It is inconsistent too, that's very true. I think, who was this? Amar had actually messaged me yesterday or day before.
There was big failure in TN this
Right.
time.
Exactly.
TN is huge on wind power.
We need reliance. Exactly. Reliable energy. What is the most effective, reliable energy in abundance?
No,
As such,
to make an
as such,
analogy,
all these wind plants, what they have, they seem to be generating power only for that particular component rather than,
Within the idea of India living in villages, we need urbanization equivalent in power, and that I think is
Right.
No, I've looked at the stats from Germany, so I'm asking something, based on what I've read, that solar and wind and tidal together, they definitely have a potential to build an industry. They could challenge nuclear and they have far less risk. I would say that. Compared to coal or compared to oil, they're far less risky, renewable, and it suits India. India is wind swept, India is sun swept.
issue is again huge.
Yeah, India has 15,000 kilometers of coast, so all those three together can make a huge impact. Along with nuclear, I'm not opposing nuclear, all I'm saying is I'm comparing.
From where I see it, seriously looks like nuclear is your day job. You go do your job, you want to supplement your sources of income, go out do something else, that's your renewable sources of energy. But you need something that gives you a stable amount of energy day in, day out. That's nuclear.
So probably a better support system, right?
Yeah.
And the other issue is again the efficiency of solar panels. It is improved slowly bit by bit. If we can come to a point where solar panels get even more efficient and all these things, then certainly we can scale back on these other big things because the solar panels can take a greater load. With solar panels also, there are restrictions in terms of night, day. All these renewable energies are good only in certain situations.
No, at the end of the level, Jaideep, if I'm a policy maker, sorry to drag it a little further, if I'm a policy maker, I would look at only these things. What's my investment, right? What's my output? And how practical it is for the country that I'm in. My view is, yes, nuclear, India is having hardly any energy, at least if you don't go into thorium, you're starving, right? And the nuclear energy part. technology we are starving. But we are not starving on the other three. Tidal, 15,000 kilometers we could put it. Sun, no, what I'm saying is its potential. So, solar, India is sun swept. It's burning. India is wind swept. All I'm saying is if the input, if the money that I have to put in and the output that I get is even 50% comparable, I think it makes sense to have a balance between those two.
So, see, first of all, my energy portfolio would be simple. We must rush as soon as possible to shut down coal.
I agree.
After that, it is a
Diesel.
matter of mix. It's a matter of mix. There's a post on CRI we also put on electric cars. If you're going to move away from fuel, like fuel imports, like oil, basically, having electric cars makes a lot of sense. And the post discusses, what the you're not going to go to, you're not going to be able to have a 1,000-kilometer drive with one battery, but there are infrastructural issues right now. But this is something we can encourage. If that does happen, I read recently that India has decided to put in 8 billion over the next 5 years or something into electric vehicles.
project is there, I think so. They are able to automate.
So if that is the case, then definitely we'll need even more power, right? So once we have our needs, we have to distribute evenly. Again, renewables are very good, but they cannot be everything. That's my only point to it. I object to people who think, okay, let's shut down nuclear and let's have solar power.
Not shut
For the
down.
simple reason that my point is, if you shut down nuclear, you'll have to go for coal, and coal is worse than nuclear, in my opinion.
Agreed.
And therefore, if you can come to a point ultimately where the whole country can be powered only with tidal and solar without much impact on environment, so be it. Then I am fully in favor of shutting down nuclear. I don't think we are anywhere near that right now. That's my energy pie is that is where I'm going with. It is sharing. It is with renewable and nuclear and getting rid of coal as soon as possible.
Okay.
Especially in the Indian context, because coal in India is a joke. The ash content is a problem. The shipping is a problem. The railways connecting in every step of that pipeline from electricity in your house to the coal field, there are problems across the board.
And as far as coal is concerned, the government is a problem.
No, yes, that's true everywhere. I think.
Even thorium is there.
No.
Jaideep, one question on thorium. Where does India's research stand at the moment?
India has a design which is the advanced heavy water reactor, which is a very good design. But the problem is we have not been able to generate enough plutonium to all this. Plutonium is essential for the starting function of that reactor. I think the reactor needs something like 500 kilos just to start, which is a fair amount of plutonium. Once it starts, you can keep refilling with thorium, and it's.
So we are basically we have a bottleneck at the plutonium at the starting of the reaction.
Our first fast-breeder reactor, the second stage, is going to come online in 2013. Baba said this in 54, by the way, just reminding you guys. The 70 years thing, it was no joke. I think it really will take that long, because I don't think after this talk we'll go out and find that India has changed and has a national energy policy. We're going to continue like this, it will take at least so. Which is why the Indo-US nuclear deal I was a big fan of, in the sense that if we can at least import for now, because the loss per annum through power shortage is somewhere close to 43,200 crores, which is, a fair amount of money, I would say. It's a big chunk. And that is why energy is, and that is what the loss right now. Tomorrow you tell people that you will have guaranteed 100% power. They'll improve their business, expand their business. They might go more energy intensive, but it might save on labor, it might save on 15 other things. The moment they expand their businesses, you will have a bigger shortage. And so if you really look at that sort of logarithmic progression you will have, right now in the short term, the Indo-US nuclear deal, if you can get it working, is a boom.
So there is no non-enrichment clause there, non-reprocessing clause.
That is the wonderful thing. India has this wonderful place between a nuclear power and a non-nuclear power. It is in between. The deal is a special 1-2-3 agreement. Every US agreement is a 1-2-3 agreement with a foreign country, but India has a special 1-2-3 agreement where these clauses are much more murky, shall we say. In the sense, if the US wants to act on it, they can. If they don't want to act on it, they won't. Now, a lot of people in India, the hawks, have said this is rubbish because you can act on it or whatever. But as some people I've interviewed said point blank, even if I give it to you in writing in blood, heart's blood, saying I will not interfere in If I want to, I can, and nothing will stop me. So this absolute guarantee that India looks for. It's not good. The second thing is you must, this the Indo-US nuclear deal and the criticism of it. One is the guarantee. How can you guarantee supply of fuel and all these things? The second thing they said was separating the military from the civil reactors will cost India money. Yes, that is true. Now the issue is, the way when you interact with someone, either he makes, he gives you everything you want. That is, then it's not a negotiation. That is, he's giving you. It's either charity or you forced him to just, it's looting, one of the two. The other option is he will not give you anything. And the third option is that you negotiate. And that negotiation part I'm talking about. You get something, you have to give something. And this is what you have to give. And if you think this price is high, this is the price for 60 years of Indian political obtuseness.
What about end-use monitoring agreement?
India is not being singled out. I think India is more sensitive about their honor and all these sort of things. But this is standard. They'll have it with the UK, they'll have it with Japan, they'll have it with India also. Honestly, I think I cannot fault them for it for the simple reason that tomorrow, if India gets its act together and the BrahMos missiles are being manufactured and we're selling them, making money for the country, for example, I would like to be sure that when I sell 50 BrahMos missiles to, say, Israel, or not Israel, let's say Egypt or something, I want to be very sure that those Egyptians will not turn around and sell it to the Pakistanis. Then I'm supplying my enemy, basically. So I want to say no. If I'm going to sell countries like Egypt, okay, Egypt is close enough a friend that I'm willing to sell this missile to, but not that close that I trust anybody blindly. So I want to make sure I will come every year and make sure those missiles are still there, that no tampering has gone on for reverse engineering, that unauthorized access by scientists from other countries or something else has happened. So for all the issues you might have with it, my solution is simple. It is a penalty you pay for being a second-rate research power. It is unfortunate, but that is how the world works. So I don't fault the US for this. The fault lies at home. DRDO is a disaster. There's an excellent book called Managing India's Nuclear Forces, where the guy, although the title is Managing India's Nuclear Forces, the guy is totally destroyed, and he's some very high up military guy, Verghese Koitara or something. He takes about the DRDO. He explains how horribly it is done. And again, yes, the DRDO is at fault, but again, we always have to go back to the bureaucracy, the IAS, and we have to go back to the politicians. It is not so simple as to just build the DRDO and be happy with it. You can't scrap the DRDO, start a new agency and think everything is okay. It's more complicated. But
and just wanted to know about the dual-use technologies that means India was demanding. While India promised that it will get from US?
It was not promised, but it was not denied, which is good enough. By law, that is good enough. Now, what has happened is that the Americans, when questioned in Congress, they didn't say yes, they didn't say no, and so Indians are unhappy. However, the French and the Russians have said, yeah, for us that means yes, we'll go ahead.
Yeah, as far as my knowledge is, means whatever US promised and whatever agreement they got with that nuclear group, supplier group, NSG, India had the option that they may or may not buy from US, they can buy from France, Russia and others.
Exactly.
And they can always circumvent all those things.
That is at least the mainstream legal understanding of that issue. Right.
The one clause in the 150 agreement which talks about the liability of the suppliers.
That's not in the 153 now. They said basically in the 123 they said that you should come up with the nuclear civil liability, and that is a different, and that is internal to India, the Civil Liability Act.
Yeah, but in the context of those who were supplying the hardware, the reactors, they did not have a liability in case something would go wrong.
Yes, that is.
Now that was a very sensitive point, especially given the context of the Bhopal gas tragedy that we've seen. That's the closest that we've got to something like this. Now, how does one address that? Because that's something which is significant. If you're supplying, then you should be liable for it. And the liability was asked to be capped at a very modest amount of several $100 million or something, right? And clearly, if ever an accident were to happen, the damage would be in billions of dollars, right? So,
Clause 7, right?
So how does one address that?
In my opinion, the thoughts on this doesn't make sense. In the sense, there's this in legal procedure, it's very clear that there's this divided responsibility. For example, if I park my car in the middle of the road and run inside to get keys, and you come from, you turn the corner, hit my car, and my car slides and hits somebody, he will sue me because it's my car, but I can in turn sue you saying my car was, although it was an instrument, the cause was you hitting my car. But you will also have a claim why you caused it because of the road. But what happens is in terms of the person, it's divided responsibility. That is not followed in nuclear liability. The torts, basically you sell me something and no matter what happens, you are free. The reason this was done is because the costs were very high back in the day. Perry Anderson Act, all these things. They made it to make it easy for the nuclear suppliers to enter the market and all these things. Maybe it was required, maybe it was not. We can debate that, it's different. But the issue is today, I think most companies are still scared, right? Because they know full well I can sell you a reactor, but then if you stick me a bill for $12 billion, I might go bankrupt. Their argument is simply that why would we sell you a bad reactor? Because if one reactor of mine blows, I am going to go bankrupt even without liability because nobody will ever buy from me again. So you can trust us. That is not good enough for a lot of people. So in terms of simple legal torts, I think it makes perfect sense that we should ask them for liability also. But India is buying, India needs a technology and we cannot build reactors fast enough. So in that sense, the practical approach in my opinion would be to privatize. The reason is that first, for that the regulations come in. Well, I'll go back to the regulations.
Let's get back to your main topic.
Right. Yeah, let's finish it and then we'll go to the questions.
Because I've read 40 papers on the 1, 2, 3. We can have another discussion on that.
Exactly.
But will they have to monitor our research facility also?
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah, so forget it. Let him continue.
Okay, let me finish. We'll get back. So for the last part is actually weapons related more than the energy, but thing. Now the 74 to 98, we have 24 years. Nothing happened, at least ostensibly. Why? Okay, in terms of nuclear weapons. The first point is economic pressure. India was a very poor country. The economy didn't do well. No matter what they tell you about little growth from 3% to 4% to 5%, it was not enough to.
The rate of growth.
Yes, exactly. The sanctions were there, which meant our scientists had a lot of difficulty accessing literature, accessing other scientists from abroad. There's US pressure also. Knowledgeable sources say that India tried to test 3 times before 98, and every time the US found out and blocked it with pressure. The latest being, I think, in 95 is Narasimha Rao. 94, 95.
Narasimha Rao, yes.
Right. In 98, when the test was there, basically they managed to do it very secretly, and that is how they got away. I don't know if they even would have found out and put pressure. I don't know if we would have held off or not again. But the point is, in 98, again they didn't find out, unlike the other 3 times. 83 was one, 94 was one, and then some date in the late 80s also, I think. And India was close to test, not early 90s. Now, what was I going to say? Now, see, in terms of weapons, as to where India stands. Now, yes, obviously we need more tests because we need them for miniaturization and all these other kinds of questions. But there is this whole idea of the hydrogen bomb field. So what? Because war fighting is not. When the first hydrogen bomb was tested, the myth, the legend is the American military general was supervising the test. He looked at the results and said, "Okay, what do we do with this?" Is it because the whole island disappeared where they tested it? No? The whole island disappeared. We don't need bombs that are that big. Indian nuclear strategy, as far as I can understand, I think it's a good strategy, but they need to actually work on it and actualize it, not just keep it on paper. Is using smaller nuclear warheads on the battlefield to get small advantages. Why? There's less radiation and people can live again in that area. You put a big bomb which knocks out and wipes out a whole island. That area will be contaminated for the next 60, 70 years and it's a waste. Our enemies are very close to us, remember. So that radiation fallout will definitely come. The Soviets and the Americans, they can launch and forget the other side of the planet. Living in Moscow, Colorado's gone, it's not going to bother you that much. But Peshawar is gone, it will bother us. Whether we like Peshawar gone or not is a different issue. The point is it will bother Indians, the radiation. So if nuclear war starts, I think we have failed somewhere already. It's a very bad idea. But just a lot of things that are bad ideas. We should still prepare for it. And the way you prepare for it is having these tactical nuclear warheads. And for that we need tests. The hydrogen bomb, that's just a prestige thing. Yes, we have a big bomb. So what? It doesn't help in the strategy at all. City buster bombs are not the way we fight. We can keep 5 of them as insurance in case,
Neutron bombs, you say.
neutron bombs also, not just.
Because there the radiation is less, you only have fast neutrons knocking.
No, in the sense, neutron bombs are another kind of.
And also hydrogen bombs.
Tactical warheads are not necessarily neutron
Yeah,
bombs.
tactical is
Right.
different.
The city busters, you can have 5 or 6 of them as background. If you see your enemy troops, walking into Madras, you might have a problem. At that point, you launch them because you know everything is lost. Short of that, there are a lot of other ways we can do it, and that is what we need to prepare for. We need better missiles, we need better accuracy, we need smart weapons, we need special forces, a lot of things, and that is where money has to go. The nuclear H-bomb argument is a fake argument. It is good scientifically. I love nuclear weapons, I just don't want to use them. I think it's the science, there's nothing wrong with perfecting. If you haven't got it, the science of the H-bomb, if you want to have, that's fine. But if you want to tell me it's the military need, I don't mind.
Some news was there that 98 tests were.
That's what I was referring to. That the argument was they had claimed that the hydrogen bomb test had failed, right? But which is what I was referring to. Actually.
So it was a sufficient intensity to safeguard the engineering.
Not to know it was 0.5 megaton TNT, right? 0.5 to 1.5.
I don't know. There are like 5 tests. I don't know which was which exactly. But so my point is, when you come to nuclear weapons and use, you have to have clear strategies. You have to. You need openness also. You make a strategy. You tell everybody. Okay, Pakistan, if you capture Barmer, I won't say anything. But if you come to Ajmer, I will nuke you. Okay, so they also know. Okay, not that I hope to God that we're not in a position where we have to have that statement. But they also know what the red line is for you. You cross this, we'll nuke you. Short of that, so they, like with Pakistan, we're very clear. Like the problem with the India-Pakistan thing, for example, is we don't know what will happen during Kargil, for example, if we cross the line of control. Okay, if Indian jets crossed, will that trigger nuclear war, or are they just going to use anti-aircraft guns? And not knowing is much worse, which is why the Soviets and the Americans had that hotline. They're very clear. Look, if you do this, we'll attack you. If you up to here, fine. Right. So you have that level of pushing, and that is a way of signaling, in the sense.
But we already have a no first use of this thing, right?
No first use is fine, but I mean.
No use at all, essentially.
My
Pakistan can
is
use
not
it.
just about. See, I want to get to a point where I tell you very clearly when I'll use it also. No first use in war.
Vague.
Exactly. No first use doctrine is because no first use. What constitutes first use? First nuclear use, chemical use, biological use. What if Pakistan tests a nuclear warhead on an empty plain on the border? There's no village there. It is a demonstration to India saying if you come, we will start using. Technically, Pakistan is used, but it's not on an Indian target. It's on an empty plain. Is that used? If they drop that bomb in Pokhran, where there's nothing there, it's a desert, it's a test site for that only. Okay. Now, there's absolutely, and they tell you, look, we have deliberately targeted Pokhran. The next one will be in Bombay. This is a warning to you. Is that first use? I mean, this gets very complicated, and in the heat of battle, I don't think this is going to matter too much. So we need to have very clear mechanisms. You do this, yes, the retaliation will be this. Up to here, we're fine. The signaling has to be very clear, because that is what holds the people. We need to improve the triad that we talked about. That Arihant was supposed to have been launched in 2009. The reactor was missing in that nuclear power submarine in 2009. It is still not fully tested. Once it is tested, we have to put the missile down. And right now we have the shorter range missiles ready for it, not the longer range missiles. We have all these issues are there. But this is where India can improve on its nuclear and related defense areas. A bigger bomb is not going to help, and I certainly don't think that having this vague position right now and this image that that belief, that hope that we're stronger than China or Pakistan is going to, we certainly wouldn't want to find out that that is not the case.